This changes everything for the Toronto Maple Leafs as some scary rumors have been revealed surrounding Dani Hakampaa, the Toronto Maple Leafs' brand new signing. We're going to break down what those are and discuss how his future in the NHL could be in jeopardy as he's dealing with a serious injury according to multiple reports. So to break that down, discuss what it can mean going forward for Brad Treliving as he just signed this player yesterday to a 2-year contract. So stay tuned for all that. But before we do, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that button. We're on the road to 12,000 subs. But Darius, very scary. And we made a video yesterday about Dani Hakampaa about how it was a steal of the offseason, one of the steals of the offseason, a great pickup for the Maple Leafs. And then this scary rumor comes out, and I will preface it by saying it is from Steve Simmons, but there's some other people kind of saying that they're hearing the same thing as well. But let's just dive right into it. Not exactly what you wanted to hear on the second day, or really the first night of free agency as it dropped down yesterday. So here's what happens. There's talk that new Leaf signing Dani Hakampaa could be dealing with a major knee injury that might prevent him from ever playing again. His knee injury is severe, described as bone on bone with not much knee left, and despite the Leafs signing him, many doubt he'll be able to play. And 2 years ago, he was playing significant minutes for the Stars, but his condition has deteriorated to the point where it's uncertain if he could ever play another NHL game. Yeah, this is crazy. This is very scary, and we'll get into his stats and what it can mean and all this stuff. But on the surface here, Darius, again, take it with a grain of salt. It's Steve Simmons, and I don't know why Simmons would have this info if Brad Treliving and the entire Maple Leafs organization didn't. So that's a little scary, but nonetheless, we have to cover it. If this is the case, that's really bad.
Well, stop me if you've heard this before. A right shot defenseman acquired from the Dallas Stars via free agency might have a career-ending injury. John Klingberg last year, this happened to the Leafs before. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I feel like obviously Brad Treliving, when you acquire a player, you get the medical records. There was a whole thing about when Matt Murray was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs from Ottawa Senators, he had to pass a couple physicals in order for the trade to go through. So obviously they must know what this player is dealing with. So I wonder if this is a little bit of cap shenanigans where, you might get some extra money if you put him immediately on LTIR just to sign him, because MLSE, they could spend the money. So maybe they just signed him to put him on LTIR because they get some kind of relief out of it. I don't know what the exact game plan is here, because I was not aware of his injury being this bad. I knew he was, held out of certain games last season, but he did play. So I wasn't, aware that his injury was this bad, that he may never play in the NHL again. So I'm wondering if they think that it's not that bad, right? If they have some info that, okay, he's going to make it through, or they're going to at least try it, or if they're signing him strictly to put him on LTIR because they get some kind of bonus out of it, getting some relief in that. So really, really odd and not what I expected to hear. I was excited about this player, to be honest. I know he doesn't bring anything offensively, but he's exactly what the Leafs need. So really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and again, take it with a grain of salt. There's a good chance that this is all just not made up necessarily, but the injury is exaggerated on Steve Simmons' front. I can't say Steve Simmons has the best track record as a reporter, but it's something that definitely has to be discussed. And this is from the article, the Maple Leaf signings, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And basically, obviously, the Tanev signing was great, but the signing of Hakanpaa, it's a new nickname, who at one time would have helped the club, is one you might shake your head at, and basically just went on to describe how, again, very interesting signing, and I take it with a massive grain of salt. We'll have more info, I'm sure, as the weeks progress. But basically say that it wasn't that way with Hakanpaa, signed with Toronto on Canada Day as well, and how he was dealing with injuries in the past, even though 2 years ago he was very solid. Like, we knew that he was dealing with injuries last season, but there was no, and there still has been other than this report, there hasn't been any indications that he's going to miss significant time. The Leafs haven't came out and said that. There hasn't been, an Elliot Friedman, a Chris Johnson, a Pierre LeBrun, whoever you trust the most, come out and say, hey, he's probably going to be out a significant amount of time. But what is coming out is the fact that if this injury is true, and I think either way, even if it's not going to be an injury that keeps him out for a significant period of time, it's not very encouraging to do that. Any quick thoughts? There's another piece of the article I want to get into as well, but I think he could fit really well into the Toronto Blue Lines, the Toronto Maple Leafs blue line, that is.
Yeah, if he's healthy, like, this is a player who can be a big difference maker for you, right? He can somewhat move the puck. Like, he's better at moving the puck than Lyubushkin was, and I hate to keep dumping on the guy, but it's a big upgrade in that way.
He got paid.
He can definitely move the puck better, and he's physical. He's big, right? He's tough to play against. So it would be good for the Leafs if he is healthy to play here. So it's just really interesting. And like you mentioned too, it's coming from Steve Simmons, and there was some chatter online last night about it, and a lot of people are giving their thoughts and some people chiming in, but we haven't heard anything on this front from like Elliot Friedman or Chris Johnson. Like, I trust Chris Johnson the most, right? Like, anything that he puts out, like, I'm trusting Chris Johnson. It's usually correct. So very very interesting. We haven't heard anything on that side. So take it with a grain of salt. Maybe the Leafs know something that Steve Simmons doesn't, or that, wherever he's getting his info from doesn't, that this player might be able to play still.
Yeah, and it's weird that Steve Simmons would know this and then no one else would be reporting on it. And you look at kind of how the blue line has started to shape up for the Maple Leafs, and this is without obviously that guy. And the interesting part is it still looks pretty good. Even if they don't have Hakanpaa in there, it's still very good. But seeing how he fit or could fit in would be very intriguing because he is obviously 6'7" or 6'6", 32 years old. They round up 6'7", depending on what website you look at. 12 points, 64 games. Like, he's not going to get a lot of points. He's not going to be a guy who is super. He's very impactful, but not in the flashiest of ways. But Darius, he's 6'6". He's a big body. He throws his body around. This is a guy you'd want to have in some playoff matchups, especially as the Stars did last season when he had a pretty okay playoff run there, and he was impactful each game, averaging almost 20 minutes time on ice a game. Like, I want to not believe this rumor because we're gonna go with the rumor because it's Steve Simmons, because it was such a good signing and one that got tons of positive PR from Toronto Maple Leafs fans, from the media, from the reporters. And if this ends up being the case and it is just an LTIR stunt, they could have done it below 1.15 million so they get even more relief rather than signing him to 2 years at 1.5 instead of 1.15. There's a lot of weird things they could have done. But after the Liljegren signing, I'm a little confused with some of the ways Brad Treliving has been handling the contracts anyway. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's just some weird long play here, just even though he will never dress up as a Maple Leaf.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the play, right? But I think that they know something that we all don't, that this player is going to be able to play. And worst case scenario, if it does fall apart, it's like John Klingberg again, where, you get the cap relief anyway, you can go get somebody else. But weird play. The defense, like we showed, is pretty much done, even without Hakanpaa, right? In that lineup. So even if he were not to play, this is kind of what they're going to go with. And I think that they kind of do believe in Timothy Liljegren still, because, I think they think that the injury he got last year hindered his play and that he would come back and be better this year. So even without Hakanpaa, it's okay. But I like the signing. As soon as they announced it, I was like, oh, this is great. Really physical body who plays almost 20 minutes a night on a really good team, takes some tough matchups, can play in different situations, right? Whether it be, on the specialty team. So block shots. I thought it was a great signing. So to hear that he might not play now is unfortunate, but it was a low risk contract at the end of the day anyway, 1.5 for 2 years. So, if anything goes south on the injury side, the Leafs can definitely eat that on LTIR and go find somebody else. And they have their defense, set in this way, as you can see here. So I don't know. It's a pretty interesting situation. Hopefully he's not injured. He can continue his career on the personal side, right? I hope that player can continue his career, but very interesting.
Yeah, you can see this little final point. Sorry, before we wrap up. He said the Leafs signed him, but many doubt he'll even play bone on bone 2 years ago, whatever. But he might have played his last NHL game in March, and if he plays at all for the Leafs, it will shock those who are around in recent seasons, and it will shock me if he doesn't play. So we'll have to see what happens with all of this. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. Are you concerned? Do you think it's just a weird Steve Simmons report, like a rumor, like we've seen in the past? Let us know, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.